You might remember we were doing a chapter from the Rays of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. It was 11th Ray last week. We did the first and the second matter. Inshallah, I will continue with the third matter today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin ve salatu ve selamu ala eşrefi halkı seyyidul enam. Muhammedur Resulullah sallallahu teala aleyhi ve sellem. Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhaneke la ilme lena illa ma allamtena inneke entel alimul hakim. Subhaneke la fehme lena illa ma fehemtena inneke entel cevadul kerim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yesir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yafqahu kavli. Ve ufevvidu emri ilallah innallaha basirun bil ibad. I try to repeat these from verses from the Quran simply for the reason, one part of it is from Surah Al-Baqarah, when the angels said, are you going to create a being who is going to spill blood and do mischief on earth? As you know, it's a famous incident before Adam was created. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to them, you don't know which that I do know, because Allah knows all. And as you know, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he taught him the names. That's what the Quran says. Some scholars say that names referred to in the verse is the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his names and attributes. But others say it is about a language, it's about nature, everything that Adam needed to survive, all of these things. So its knowledge was taught to him. And when angels saw this, they said, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. So what they're saying, they're confirming that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are the one that teaches us everything. Without you letting us know, we wouldn't know nothing. That is why it's good to repeat that. And the second part of it was Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. And that is the prayer of Musa alayhi salam, Moses, in the Quran. As you know, he needed to go and speak to Pharaoh continuously. And he asks from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open up his tongue so he is more better spoken. So we try to repeat them as well, because it is Allah that makes us do things. Nothing originates from us. Even if you look at some of the philosophers, in the past, some of their quotes, I love their quotes, like some of the Greek philosophers. Socrates says, a person who reaches wisdom is the person who admits he does not know anything. That is wisdom, because no matter how much we know, when you think about the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's nothing. We don't know nothing. So the third matter, this is also described in Gençlik Rehberi, which is Guide for Youth, in a book called Guide for Youth. Again, as you know, when we look at the two previous matters, he was explaining these things from prison. As I mentioned, Bediüzzaman Said Nursi was placed in many times in prison, he's been exiled, just because he's been explaining Islam. So he went through a lot. And this is another incident where he explains from the prison. I was once sitting by the window in the Eskişehir prison, a region in Turkey, during the National Republic Day. So it was a holiday, special Republic Day, Cumhuriyet. The young girls in the school opposite to the prison were playing and cheering in the schoolyard. Suddenly, I saw them 50 years onwards. He says that suddenly, those children or girls who were playing there in the yard, their future into 50 years' time was shown to me, like a cinema screen, Their future conditions played out to me like a film on a movie screen, he says. I saw that of those 50 or 60 girls, 40 to 50 had turned to dust. They had died. He's saying the 50 years into future. They were in their graves and they were suffering. The other 10 were unattractive, septuagenarians. Sean, there you go. Let's see you work that word out. Septuagenarians. First time I heard that. So they were unattractive, septuagenarian, maybe very, elderly. You can have a look at it. Despite by those from whom they might have expected love, on account of the fact that they had not preserved their chastity when they were young. So when they were young, he's saying, they did not preserve their chastity, and no one was respecting them anymore. No one was, they expected love from others, but it wasn't coming anymore. They were very old now, pretty anymore. The life had gone. So he's seeing 50 years into the future. Observing this, I wept at that I wept at their pitiable states. So he cried when he saw this. Some of my friends in the prison heard me crying, and they asked me, so he must have been crying loudly when he saw that. They asked me what was wrong. It's interesting, people with, deep insights like this, they are very sensitive. I knew this person, when I was overseas. At the time, he was over 60. And with him, his name was Bekir. With him, we went to visit a person who was in the army. In the weekends, you can go and visit them. We drove to another city. And we went next to this lake. We were sitting having lunch with them. And there was a group of soldiers who came from overseas, from Germany, Turks. They were doing their military service, short, like 2 months. They were sitting there and they had some magazines in their hands, bad magazines, like Playboy and things like that. And when Bekir saw them from a distance, he started crying next to me, He said, look at the youth, the way they are, they destroying their akhirat. He actually cried, when he saw them. Others might, be angry and say things, but no. You feel pity. And as Bediüzzaman here, he says, I started crying heavily. You must understand. Some of my friends in the prison heard my weeping and asked me what was wrong, but I had to tell them to leave me alone for a while. You must understand that what I saw was real, not imaginary. This is interesting. He's saying what I saw is real, it is not imaginary. Just as summer and fall are followed by winter, so just as summer and autumn are followed by winter, the summer of youth, this is especially for the younger ones here, the summer of youth and autumn of the old age are followed by the winter of the grave. It's a reality. And the intermediate realm, which is alem-i berzakh, the intermediate realm. If there were a device which could show the future events in the same way that films can show the events of the past, then those of 50 years ago would be shown in the present, and vice would be shown their conditions 50 years from now. They would cry out in pain and disgust, be mourning bitterly their present state of apparent felicity, and illicit pleasures. So what he's saying, if there was a device which could show the future, like that crystal ball. Let us say, let's be more modern, some sort of a, computer, electronic device. It's not possible. I'm just an example, hypothetical. You can see your future into 50 years. What he's saying, people of misguidance, meaning youth that live in, uh, pleasures that is not permitted, unlawful things, because Allah has given us pleasures from lawful ways, in haram, that sort of life. If they could see the future, how they will be in 50 years' time on a screen, they would cry out in pain and disgust. And they would be mourning bitterly their present state of apparently felicity and illicit pleasure. So they will be saying about themselves what they are doing at that time when they are young. They will say, I am disgusted with this. This looks like having fun and it's happiness, but it's not in reality. While preoccupied with these observations in Eskişehir prison, a sort of collective persona which encouraged vice and misguidance appeared, embodied before me like a shaitan, devil, in the human form. So when I was thinking about these things, this uh, collective persona, he uses the term Şahsi Manevi, some person that symbolizes the nefs, the carnal desires of human beings. So he is there for the nefs, to defend the nefs, our carnal desires. It said, we want to taste all the pleasures and joys of this life, and to make others taste them too. Do not interfere with us. Why are you saying things like that, like this, and interfering with us? Let us enjoy our life. In response, I said, since for the sake of pleasure and enjoyment you do not recall death, rather you plunge yourself into vice and misguidance, know that for a fact that because of your misguidance all the past is dead and non-existent. It is desolate and most dreadful graveyard filled with rotten corpses. The pains arise from those innumerable separations you have suffered, and from the deaths of your friends, pains which, since there is no hope of reunion with your loved ones, have had grievous effect on what remains of your heart and mind, and it will soon destroy those insignificant drunken pleasures which constitute your present as well. So he said, in answer to the person who said, don't interfere with us, don't tell us what to do. We just pleasures of life. We want others to enjoy it as well. We want to get them to taste it as well. So he said, just for the sake of pleasure and enjoyment, you don't want to recall death. You don't want to remember death. And you plunge yourself into all this misguidance and vice. But you should know that according to your beliefs, which is disbelief, that the past for you is dead. The past is dead, doesn't exist anymore, non-existent. And all the pains arise from those innumerable separation. Everyone that you knew who has passed away is gone for eternity. And very interestingly, he says, you will soon also destroy those insignificant drunken pleasures which constitute your present as well. So soon, these things that you think you call pleasure, they will be removed from you as well. You will lose them too. You're not going to have them for eternity in this world. They will pass. It's a guaranteed. As for the future, Well, because of your lack of belief, because you don't believe, that too is nothing more than a dark, dead, and desolate wasteland. Isn't that a reality? Because if a disbeliever looks in the past, as I mentioned before, that person is looking at a huge graveyard, dark graveyard, which has taken all the living beings in the past it forever, according to the disbeliever. They're going into non-existence. If a disbeliever looks in the future, he will see the same thing. Because the future is eventually a big graveyard as well. It's waiting to swallow all of us as well, take our lives as well. And then we never exist again, according to their belief. They just got this instant. That's all. That's all. If you abandon your misguidance and vice and enter the sphere of true belief and righteousness, you will see through the light of faith, Iman, that the past is neither non-existent nor a graveyard filled with rotten corpses. Rather, it is real, luminous world that has been transformed into the future. It is a waiting room, the past, for the immortal spirits who will enter palaces of happiness in the world to come. See, if you look at it with the eyes of Iman, he's saying, to the past, it is not a dark graveyard. It is like a waiting room where people, their souls are waiting to enter that eternal joys. So everything changes. Since it is so, it gives no pain. Then the past will give you no pain. You know, if you lost your beloved, friends, family members, whoever you lost in the past, it will not give you pain because you know you will be reunited one day. Your mentality changes. Depending on the degree and strength of one's iman belief, it causes a sort of paradisical pleasure in this world. The future, too, when it's seen through the eye of iman, is not dark. It is not a desolate wasteland, but a ground in whose palaces and eternal happiness, banquets and exhibitions exist. So many gifts which have been set up by an all merciful, all compassionate, one of majesty and benevolence, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one who has infinite mercy and munificence, and who makes spring into summer, into tables laden with bounties. Since the movie screen on Iman reveals the future to be like this, and since belief also gives the awareness that people are being dispatched there to the other side through the door of death, through the gates of death, everyone can experience some sort of the pleasure pertaining to that permanent realm, permanent world, while they are still in this world, to the degree and strength of their iman. So, if you know these things, and if you truly believe that there is an eternal life, there is paradise, there is Jannah, even that belief gives you pleasure in this world because it gives you hope. There is nothing more powerful than hope for humanity. If someone doesn't have any hope in this life, they may as well go and enter the grave. Everyone has some sort of hope for the future. Everyone, every human being. But the targets, the objectives they make for themselves, if they are just material, even when you reach them, it's all over then. It's all over. What you do after that, you need another target, another objective, another objective. It will never finish because they're all fleeting. What you love in this world is mortal, just like yourself. You're mortal too. Nothing is immortal. They're all temporal. Even if you get your hands onto it, go, or you're going to go. So that's not going to give you true pleasure. But if you have in your heart, and if your iman is strong, that's what he's saying, knowing that there is an eternal life where you will never get old, where you will never get sick, you will never be bored. That gives you happiness and joy in this world as well, makes you happy. So psychologically, you feel happy too. So, in conclusion, true pain-free pleasure can be only found in Iman, belief. Only through belief as well. Pleasure, if you really want satisfaction in your heart, it can only be found through Iman. Nothing else will make you happy, I'm telling you. Nothing else. No matter what you wish for in this materialistic world, if you get your hands onto it, it's not going to make you happy. Imagine, for example, that your beloved only child is suffering in the pangs of death, and you are desperately worried about her painful demise. Suddenly, a physician like Khidr or Luqman appears with a wonderful medicine which he gives to your loved one. Your dear, most adorable child opens her eyes, delivered from death. So this person appears, your baby, your child is dying, and this person appears like Khidr or Luqman. Luqman is the father of all doctors, as you know, Hakims. And he gives you this medicine. You give it to your child, and your child opens her eyes, and she is saved from death. Can you imagine the joy and relief that you would feel at her recovery and escape from death? Like the child example, countless people whom you love and for whom you are concerned are about to rot away for all of eternity in the graveyard of the past. This is for the disbeliever. So you care about your child so much, the way you will feel, if somebody saves her life, yeah? But think about all your loved ones. With your disbelief, according to you, all your loved ones are eternally rotting away in the darkness of the graveyard of the past. And suddenly, like Luqman the wise, the truth of belief shines a light from the window of the heart onto the grave, which is thought of a vast place of eternal annihilation. Thanks to the truth and light of Iman, all of the dead spring to life, as though they are saying, we did not die and we will not die. We will meet you again. Everything changes with Iman. Because the soul does not die. Soul does not die. It is the physical body that dies. What boundless joy and exhilaration you would feel at experiencing this reality by giving the same boundless joy and exhilaration in this world. Iman proves that it is like a seed which, were it to be embodied, would grow into a private paradise, a veritable tuba tree of the eternal felicity. So Iman is like a seed. If you put it right into your heart, it will grow into your private paradise, Jannah. It will turn into a tuba tree, which is eternal happiness, symbolizes eternal happiness. So persisting in its obduracy, that devil in him to this. So that the person is obstinate, responded to my advice. At least we can pass our lives living like the rest of the animals, he said, immersed in pleasure and enjoyment, indulging ourselves with amusement and dissipation, and casting all thought of these subtle and delicate matters out of our minds. So the other person is saying, the one who read, we should just live like animals then. Why should we think about all these matters that you talk about? Take them out of your mind. My answer as follows, he says, Bediüzzaman. No, you cannot live like an animal either. Not least because neither past nor future exists for the animals. Animals don't think about those sort of things. Say, 2 years ago, my father passed away and starts crying. They don't even know what's happening. I saw during Kurban, when they're slaughtering sheep, they're slaughtering one sheep there, the other one here is eating grass. Doesn't even think, well, my friend, look, they're killing me. I'm next. They don't have that awareness. So it leaves, so animals receives unalloyed pleasure, uninterrupted, perfect pleasure. It lives and sleeps in comfort, offering thanks and praise to its creator. They are thankful as well. Even an animal that is about to be slaughtered does not really truly feel anything. It feels the pain as the knife cuts its throat, but that pain is very momentary and it disappears in an instant. Brother Abdul. It disappears in an instant. Since there is no anticipation of death, the pain of death is very momentary, very short-lived for them. But with us, it is not like that. They say that anticipation of death is more scary than death itself. So you cannot live like an animal, he is saying. This means that keeping the without revealing what will happen there is a great instance of divine mercy and compassion. It is an even greater blessing for innocent animals because they don't know. They don't know what's going on. But on account of the fact that human beings are sentient, and because of their past and the future, they can be seen, so past and the future can be seen to emerge from the unseen. To some extent, what lies beyond the veil of the visible world cannot remain wholly hidden. What lies beyond the visible world cannot remain wholly hidden, unlike the animals. As a result, all human beings, you are unable to live as a carefree and unconcerned like animals. Regrets about the past, the pains of separation, and worries about the future reduce to ashes your fleeting present pleasures, making them 100 times less appealing than those enjoyed by the animals. So he's saying, because as a human being, what happens that bothers you. And you're thinking about the future, what will happen in the future, that your mind is constantly preoccupied by that as well. So your pleasures in this world, those fleeting pleasures in this world, cannot be matched with the pleasures that animals get. They get 100% pleasure. When cat, drinks a milk or eats something, watch it, how they eat it. Full maximum pleasure. You can see how much they're enjoying. We can't do that. And as many times I described, because our brains keeps on thinking, keeps on thinking. Even when you're eating, you're thinking about something. What you got to do tomorrow? You got to pay this bill. You got to do that. You got to fix this. Constant. Yeah. We can't stop it. Remember, I said, if you wanted to stop thinking, you will think about not thinking, and you will still be thinking. So it is not possible. So it keeps on bothering you. And the brain, human intellect, is like some. I remember one man gave that example analogy. He said, it is like a stone in your shoe. You can't take it out, get rid of it. But when you walk, it always bothers you as well. Yes. So we cannot be like the animals. That is not possible. Since this is a fact, either abandon your intellect, turn yourself into an animal, and achieve salvation that way, or alternatively, come to your sense through the true belief, Iman, pay heed to the Quran, and experience pure pleasure also in this transitory world as well, which is 100 that enjoyed by animals. So if the iman comes in, then you will enjoy a pleasure which is 100 times of the animals. It's a different pleasure because belief and obedience, worship, the pleasure you get out of it, it is not material. It's spiritual. It cannot be replaced with any material pleasures. Nothing can replace it. You know, it must have happened to all of you at some time. Sometimes you feel it. You go to sajda, especially if you're alone at home, maybe at night or something like that. You get that connection with your Lord. It's a special thing. Just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That pleasure cannot be replaced with anything. It's unique. You're talking to him, imagine. And that's how Islam is, Islamic belief is. There's no one in between. Imagine that. No monks, no priests, no rabbis, no one in between. No imams, no sheikhs. It's just you and Allah. There's no one can come between you, not even the Prophet. That's as-salatu miraj al-mu'min. It's like Miraj. The Prophet went, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's the closest point to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For a while, these words of mine silenced my adversary, but in his obstinacy, he's still obstinate, stubborn, he turned to me once more and said, well, then we can at least live like the irreligious people of the West. Like the people who don't follow religion at all. In the same way that you cannot live like animals, you cannot live like irreligious people, people who don't follow religion in the West either, I said to him. For even if they deny one prophet, they believe in others. Even if they do not recognize the prophets, they may still believe in God. He's talking about the people in the West now. And even if they do not obey God, do not know certain personal characteristics and virtues through which they find fulfillment. But if a Muslim denies the final prophet, Prophet Muhammad والسلام, the greatest of God's messengers, upon him be peace and blessings, whose religion and mission are universal, to what can they turn? So you're in a different position, he's saying, to a Muslim who wants to live like an animal or who wants to live like non-believers. He's saying, you're not like that. In fact, somewhere, I don't know if it's here, he gives this example. He says, people in the West, for example, He says, they can be like milk. If milk goes off, he says it can turn into a cheese or yogurt. It's still edible, it's still beneficial. He goes, but Muslims, I believe as Muslims, are like butter. He says, if it becomes poison, it cannot convert into anything else anymore. That's why sometimes you might see in social media and things like that some ex-Muslims. There's people like that. Day and night they attack Islam. Day and night. There's people like that. As if they have nothing to do in their life. They're gone off completely, lost their ways, because they will never go and enter into belief again. Butter has turned into poison. It's not like the others in the West. For example, a Christian might abandon his religion, but can still believe in God. There's many of them like that. Yeah, it's possible. And we will have no one to turn to. It's scary, yeah. For they will be unable to accept any other prophet and will even have to turn their back on Allah Himself, for their knowledge of God and all the other prophets have reached them through Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. All the truth has already reached you. If you're denying all the truth, then where are you going to turn to anymore? How can other prophets have a place in anyone's heart? It is because of this that while many people have since the earliest time abandoned other faiths to enter Islam, which happens continuously throughout the world today, it is the fastest growing religion, Islam. If any Muslims have become true Jews, but yet uh, very few Muslims have become Jews or Christians historically. We don't see much, very few. Muslims who abandon Islam tend to rather become completely irreligious. As a rule, their characters are corrupted and they become danger to the country, to the society, and to their nation. Hearing this argument, the obstinate devil in human could find no further straw at which to clutch on. Unable to respond, it disappeared and went to hell. So classmates of mine in the school of Joseph, Medrese-i Yusufiye, realities as I have described, affirmed by the Risale-i-Nur, with its proofs, has worn down the obduracy and obstinate soul and caused numerous people to believe over the past 20 years. Since it is thus, we should therefore follow the way of Iman and correct conduct, Sunnah, a way which is safe and easy and which benefits our lives and those of the members of a nation, society, not only in this world but also in the next world as well. Instead of indulging ourselves with pointless and ultimately painful fantasies, we should spend our free time reciting the surah of the Quran that we have memorized and learn their learn their meanings as well, and from meaning from friends who can teach. We should make up for the canonical prayers. We have subrogatory prayers as well. We have failed to perform in the past. Fard's prayers that we have failed in the past as well, and taken advantage of we should try to transform this prison into a blessed garden in which the seeds of good character can be nurtured. The reality is this: if you don't take the path of Iman, you take another path. And if you want to see the results of that, taking the other path, all you need to do is go and visit the prisons, visit the hospitals, and visit the graves. You'll see also taking the other path at the end. There are many people like in prisons for a few seconds of pleasure or excitement or anger, they have lost their lives in there. 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. Just a few minutes of maybe it's anger or for something else, they destroy their future. But a righteous person won't do that. So with righteous deeds, such as these, we should do our best so that the prison governors and those concerned may be kindly masters and guides charged with the duty of preparing people for paradise in the school of Joseph, and supervise education rather than dispensers of torment like the angels of hell who stand over criminals and murderers. Yes, I'll stop there. It's been almost 45 minutes. We'll continue with the fourth matter next week, inshallah. Thank you, everyone online, for your participation as well. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, keep on praying for each other. Look after yourselves. We'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.